why I have try to have a meeting here on my porch because I know exactly what goes on about drugs. And I know how that absent-mindedness and that stupid and foolish behavior and the silly stupidness and all seriousness is about just sitting and listening. And really, I don't, when I think about how much I learned tonight, I mean, I think about all the people around me and I think about all the issues that come up from, throughout the day. And I think about all the issues being home alone, especially hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, and why so many of us really need to be at home and work a program and look at each other and talk to each other and, hug each other and just thank God. Thank God. mm, Thank God you have your family. Thank God you have your life. mm, how drugs can wreak havoc in people's lives, how it can break hearts, and it really is a destructive drug out there. And you think about all the things that are going on around you and why something like a drug could destroy a home and destroy families. Some of us have learned almost firsthand the issues with drug addiction. My sister was literally, um, she was literally in the emergency room after opioids. And my sister was ready to sell drugs. And when my furniture got stolen, and I mean, I can tell you on some of the things that I've seen on both sides of this issue. And listen, it this disease sucks. When I say it robs people of their frame of mind, it robs them of their sensibility, it robs them of a lot of things. And I cannot, and I cannot express how much I'm happy. I'm so happy to see somebody get the recovery and get get it. I mean, he's not just got it, he knows. And there's good recovery now. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of, and I don't say this lightly, but there's a lot of reasons in the world I did not want to go back to those meetings because in 1990, when I went down to see my dad, I didn't want to ever see those people again. I mean, we weren't bothering anybody, and I'll be honest with you, there were some things going on down on the West End that I was not happy at all about. And why we moved up here to Butler is because of some of the issues that were going on down that way. And it has nothing to do with the area at all. There was too much going on down that way. And it's good to kind of distance yourself from some things and give yourself time to think about it. And I went down there talking to, my dad there. And I went and I worked at those restaurants. I worked at those hotels. I saw a lot of things going on. Lots of things that aren't supposed to go on. And I got to the point where I'm like, you have to say something. And that's the truth. When somebody's doing something they're not supposed to do, whether it be drugs or not. And when we say addiction, we're talking about every addiction. We're not just talking about drugs. We're talking about sex addiction, with everything that's going on out there, porn. Uh, Addiction is addiction, whether it's porn or it's sex or it's child abuse or any of these. Because believe me, I think because of what I've studied about child abuse, there there's a dopamine release. That's the that's a disease. When I say a disease is a disease, they don't. When you start hearing out in the news that they want to legalize pedophilia, they're not going to legalize drugs, so they're not going to be legalizing pedophilia. Although you can see the push, and what the world is becoming is a cesspool. And once they go down that slippery slope, that's it. This is the world we live in, and we're not going to get. Uh, the one thing I can say, we can separate ourselves from all that sick crap out down that road. Yeah. When these people start trying to legalize pedophilia and stuff like that, that's when you guys got to start talking. People need to be on the street saying things like, hey, just in case anybody forgot, down at the Super 8 on Route 8, don't forget what happened to these kids. Don't. Because these people were trafficking children and drugs, and It happens in our homes. It happens in our neighborhoods. Get out in the street. Have a meeting right on your porch if you have to. Keep the light on. Heck, mm, talk about it. This is one thing about recovery. You guys can come to my porch and talk about recovery all night long if you want. I'm more than happy to hear about it. What I don't want to hear about is these people trying to score drugs and abusing children like what we heard last October 27, 2017. And this is why this anti-pornography campaign is real. Uh-huh. It's real. Uh-huh. These kids are hungry. They need the proper nutrition. And if somebody cannot take care of children, you take them right to the police station or fire department, and they'll find these kids a place to live. They'll put these kids in placement. They'll take care of these kids. What should have happened is somebody should have said something, and somebody probably knew that somebody, in this case Bentley Miller, being a little boy, somebody should have said something. They should have. This is what intervention is about. Crisis intervention, meaning you don't look the other way. If you see something's going on, say something. And what I see is none of us need to be out here on the streets unless we are at a meeting and sitting and talking recovery. Anything else, if somebody's trying to pull any bull, say something. That's the point. That was the whole reason we went to the middle school, because we need to hear it straight. People need to tell it like it is. They don't want to hear this nonsense like, hey, um, you know, I was just walking down the street and some girl was there. No, what I think is happening is there's a lot of people prostituting kids around this neighborhood, and people need to speak out on prostitution and all the other sick stuff that's going on out there. And you guys can, it's that time of year. This is why the Code Adams are out early. You got to pay attention. This is the kind of stuff that goes on in every neighborhood. So there's a reason. When we were up in Beaver, what ended up happening is that Code Adam was out last year, and it turns out the little boy was trafficked from Ohio, and he ended up dead in Franklin Park. And this is how obscene and sick it has gotten. So now you know what time of year you got to pay attention. Go to your local Giant Eagle if you have any concerns about, especially trafficking. If you see something, say something. Go and look for the Code Adams sticker at Giant Eagle and say something to the manager, and they'll handle it from there. This is what happened last October, and it's still going on. So it's better to stick with a group. Don't let your kids walking out with anyone, just anyone. Have a chaperone. The whole thing. Just like if you were going on a field trip, make sure your kids are with safe people. That's the whole point. And if they're not your kids, guardians, same thing. Grandparents. Make sure you chaperone your kids or have someone chaperone that you trust. And that's loosely defined. Trust. Trust is trust.